Single mom exposes incredible truth, her son's drawing of a CEO LED to a transformative moment. Sarah sat at the small dining table, a stack of unpaid bills whispering promises of distress. The weight of her reality pressed down like a heavy stone in her chest, but the laughter of her son, Liam, filled their cramped apartment a fleeting balm for her racing thoughts. Day after day, she poured herself into long shifts at the clinic, nursing the sick back to health while her heart ached with the knowledge that each hour of labor barely scraped together what they needed to survive. A single mother navigating the cold hallway of economic despair, Sarah balanced her medical scrubs with the warm embrace of motherhood, but the strain was relentless. "Look, Mom!" Liam exclaimed, his voice bursting with enthusiasm. He leaped from his chair, clutching a drawing of a charismatic CEO. His interpretation of success spilled across the page. With bold colors and dizzying optimism, Liam crafted a figure that radiated confidence, a beacon of hope amidst their struggles. Her heart twisted at the sight. It was beautiful, yes, but it also unearthed a deep-rooted fear. What had she done to warrant a son with such lofty dreams? How could a woman like her, so caught in the day-to-day, ever provide a life that would allow her son to chase the world? As they continued to draw and craft visions of futures, the whispers of her neighbors circled in her mind like a storm. "Single mother," they'd mutter, judging her stamina, the way she struggled to balance her time and her love. The feeling of inadequacy gnawed at her, eating away at the very essence of her identity. Would Liam grow to resent her for the dreams she couldn't afford to fuel? The incubus of doubt lurked, forcing her to question the validity of her efforts. It was an internal war, a fight against the growing shades of fear that threatened to suffocate her aspirations. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. When the drawing unexpectedly slipped into the hands of the CEO, the light pierced through the murky clouds of Sarah's life. A successful businessman, one who had risen from the same humble beginnings, recognized the imagination that flowed from Liam's young fingers. The call to the clinic sent shockwaves through Sarah's already frayed nerves. He wished to meet Liam, the little artist whose dreams splattered onto canvas. Exhilaration twisted into anxiety. Could this venture mean more than just muddling through their tough existence? Or would it unravel the delicate ties they struggled to maintain? Just as her spirit soared, it faltered, dread enveloping her like a heavy shawl. What if embracing this mentorship meant reshaping their world into something unrecognizable? For every glimmer of hope this opportunity offered, Sarah felt the tether to the life they'd built tremble beneath her feet. Torn between her desire to let Liam's light shine and her instinct to shield him from unpredictability, Sarah hovered on the brink of transformation, a decision poised to either elevate them or plunge them deeper into uncertainty. The moment of revelation loomed, but could she let go of her fears and step into an uncharted future? Sarah stared at the phone in her hand, her mind swirling with the implications of that simple call. The CEO, an accomplished figure who had seemingly beaten all odds, was offering more than just a meeting. He was extending a gateway to a future she had dared not even dream of. Still, her heart raced with uncertainty. The thought of letting Liam step outside the protective shell she'd built around them filled her with dread. This opportunity could mean changing everything from their modest lifestyle to the very essence of their relationship. What if this encounter transformed Liam, igniting ambitions and desires that she couldn't support? What if success only deepened the chasm of their socio-economic divides, pulling him away from the reality she'd grown to accept? Taking a deep breath, she set the phone down. "Mom?" Liam's voice shattered her reverie. He glanced at her, confusion flickering across his excited face. In that moment, she recognized that they were both standing at a precipice. "Liam, about the CEO." She began, hesitating how on earth could she explain the complexities of adult choices to a child whose only concern should be colored pencils and dreams. It was a burden to bear, but one she had no choice but to face. "Will I get to show him my drawing?" Liam's eyes sparkled, pure enthusiasm laced with innocence. The simplicity of his question broke through her turmoil. This wasn't just about her fears anymore, it was about him and what he believed in. "Yes, but it's not just your drawing. This could lead to a lot of changes for both of us," she finally said, noticing her voice trembling. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on her shoulders, the pressure mounting like the bills that awaited her attention. "Changes?" Liam's voice quivered, but his excitement didn't falter. "Like what?" "Like more work for me, more time apart, less quiet evenings at home." The truth hung in the air like the scent of impending rain, darkening the light that had been there moments before. "Mom, it's a big opportunity. For me. This is our chance." His words glimmered with conviction, forcing Sarah to confront the truth of her own limitations. Could she truly support his aspirations, or had she been nurturing a dream in her heart that she hadn't yet learned how to embrace? Alone in her thoughts, Sarah parked her worries to the side, forcing herself to consider the possibility. What if this was not just Liam's chance but hers too? Who was she to stifle the brilliance of a child's imagination? From the moment he had doodled that first stick figure, Liam had challenged her perception of the world, stretching her understanding of possibilities beyond her beige apartment walls. The evening unfolded like a series of moments on a stage, dramatic yet rich with potential. As they both took to sketching their dreams, the lines began morphing into plans. Sarah envisioned a small clinic of their own, a place where healing wasn't just an act of work but a community effort. Liam would be at the heart, guiding others through creativity, through art. But that vision required risk. Vulnerability hung in the air, jonquils of promise overshadowed by the unknown. What right did she have to pursue her dream, especially if it meant stepping into a world that had always felt out of reach? In that instant of clarity, a spark lit within her. Sarah understood that she held the power to redefine their narrative. Failure didn't mean the end, it meant growth. She experienced a shift. A resolute choice emerged from the depths of anxiety. With newfound determination, Sarah reached for her phone, ready to finalize the meeting. Whatever came next, she would face it not just for him but for herself. Together, they could not only dream but become the architects of their futures. Just as the decision settled in her heart, the phantom of doubt rattled at her door once more. Had she chosen wisely, or was she risking everything for a moment of fleeting ambition? The moment arrived, now heavy with significance, and beckoned her to act. With urgency settling around her, she felt the world shift, feeling undeniably on the cusp of navigating an uncertain yet thrilling ride. Would they emerge unscathed, or would this daring leap define who they were destined to become? The next morning, Sarah woke to the soft hum of dawn filtering through the curtains. The rays of light pressed gently against her eyelids, coaxing her into a reality that felt both thrilling and daunting. Last night's decision loomed in her mind, a silent echo demanding clarity. She needed to prepare for the meeting, not just with hopes and dreams, but with a grounded strategy. As she sipped her coffee, each sip kindled the determination she had ignited. The room was quiet save for Liam's soft doodling on the dining table. His peaceful concentration spoke volumes of potential. Her son, deeply immersed in his artwork, represented both an anchor and a prism through which she viewed her own aspirations. "Liam?" she called gently, breaking his silence. He looked up, pencil midair, eyes bright and curious. "Can you tell me about yesterday's drawing?" she ventured, wanting to understand the creative spark that bubbled within him. "It's the CEO!" he exclaimed, barely containing his excitement. "I'm showing him how to fly." Fly? The idea danced in her mind, a playful metaphor meant for spirits unbound by limitation. But for Sarah, it was also a call to action. "What do you mean?" He jumped to elaborate, his words spilling forth. Like, we can lift each other up, you know? I think he needs to see how powerful it is to dream big. Sarah's heart swelled. His innocent perspective made her reconsider her own view of ambition. The CEO being someone who could soar brought her back to her uncertainties. Power didn't always rest in titles, sometimes, it resided in the ability to inspire and uplift. How do you feel about showing it to him? She asked, gauging Liam's response. Excited. And a little nervous. He smiled, unafraid of his vulnerability. It was a refreshing contrast to her own anxieties, the weight of responsibility pressing down on her like an anchor. Me too, she admitted, appreciating his honesty. But we can prepare together. That simple act of inclusion offered a moment of connection, a reminder that risk-taking didn't have to be solitary. They brainstormed, Sarah's mind racing through possibilities. Together they scribbled ideas, visualizing a future that felt just within their grasp, a future where perhaps her dream of a clinic and his enthusiasm for art could intertwine. Time slipped by, and before long, it was time to leave. Clutching the carefully packed sketches, Sarah pulled them into her messenger bag, electric with anticipation and a touch of trepidation. She glanced at Liam, who busied himself securing his drawing with a clip, oblivious to the magnitude of the day ahead. As they stepped out, the air was crisp, invigorating. Yet, with every corner they turned, doubt crept back in. What if she stumbled during the meeting? What if the CEO didn't see the potential in their ideas, dismissing them as childish fantasies? But then, Liam's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. Mom, are you scared? It's just, her voice faltered. How could she share her fears without coloring his bold spirit? I really want them to like what we created. You'll do great, I know it. He beamed at her, confidence radiating. She smiled back, bolstered by his faith. Perhaps she was in the middle of a metamorphosis. In finding her way, she also found herself anchored by Liam's belief in her. Arriving at the towering glass building, Sarah's heart raced as they entered, the cool air inside presenting a polished world of corporate ambition. The moment felt surreal, the gleaming floors contrasting with her modest existence. This was it. Awaiting them was a chance not just to share their vision but to redefine their futures. Stepping into the lobby, she caught her reflection in the shiny surface, a reminder of her own transformation. Inside the conference room, the CEO arrived, taking his seat with authority. As he smiled and introduced himself, Sarah felt time slow down. This is it, she murmured under her breath, knowing the stakes could shift dramatically from this moment onward. But just as she prepared to speak, her voice caught in her throat, an unexpected rush of doubts crashing over her. The familiar phantom of uncertainty returned, drowning her confidence in a swell of insecurity. Did she really have what it took to navigate the seas of ambition, not just for herself, but for Liam as well? The waiting room of possibility hung thick, and with her heart pounding against the walls of her chest, she opened her mouth to speak, her fate teetering on the brink of discovery. Little did she know, this meeting would unveil hidden truths not only about her aspirations but also about the untapped potential lurking within her son. As Sarah inhaled, the air turned dense, swirling with the weight of expectation. This was a pivotal moment, a seismic shift not just for her career, but for the dreams she shared with Liam. She steadied her breath, feeling the sturdy fabric of confidence she had woven together in the past few days begin to fray. The CEO's inviting smile seemed genuine, yet it held a scrutinizing gaze. He nodded, and without waiting for formalities, Sarah found herself launching into their concept with nervous fervor, her voice rising and falling in tandem with her fluctuating self-assurance. We believe in the power of connection and creativity, she began, each word feeling both empowering and precarious. As she showcased their sketches, she struggled to stabilize her presentation against the tide of dread that threatened to capsize her enthusiasm. Liam's drawing illustrates a need for leaders to inspire as well as be inspired. She glanced at Liam, his small figure watching her intently, drawing courage from his unwavering faith. The CEO leaned forward, interest shimmering in his eyes. Her heart surged, the fleeting glimmers of hope igniting a small blaze of determination. Isn't it vital that we encourage growth at all levels? She continued, her voice gaining strength. Children see the world through unclouded lenses, they perceive possibility where adults often see obstacles. I want to create a space where that creativity is both welcome and cultivated. With every passing second, Sarah recalled the simple joy on Liam's face when he spoke about flying. She had always wanted to be a vessel of inspiration for him, but in that moment, she realized it was equally her own inspiration that she sought. The CEO interrupted, a pensive expression creeping into his features. These are ambitious ideas, Sarah. The weight of each syllable was a palpable challenge. But how do you plan to execute them? What resources do you envision needing? Questions shot through Sarah's mind, drowning her initial bravado in a tide of insecurity. What resources? What foundation could their dreams possibly rest upon? It felt as if she were standing at the edge of a vast chasm, the depths of her fears yawning below her. Resources, she murmured, the words spiraling into the ether of uncertainty. Support, of course. Community engagement might be key, perhaps partnering with local schools to foster creativity? The more she spoke, the more fluid her words became, unearthing the depth of her conviction. A clinic backed by community resources, showcasing some of that raw energy we cultivate in children, making it accessible. Workshops where parents and children can collaborate. A safe space for dreams. Liam's drawing slipped from her fingers, fluttering to the floor. She winced at the sight, fear puncturing her earlier bravado. The CEO's eyes followed the paper, then returned to her, curiosity peaking. Your son's vision is indeed compelling, he said, his demeanor softening. I can see potential here, especially if you can articulate the need for such a hub. But, as you described, it hinges entirely on execution. In that moment, Sarah's world shifted, understanding jolted through her like an electric shock. It wasn't just about what they could create, it was about the road to that creation. Execution was steeped in both preparation and the willingness to embrace uncertainty. But would she truly be able to navigate those uncertain waters? The enormity of the challenge loomed over her like storm clouds, yet beneath it, a fierce determination began to take root. Can you tell me more about how you see this collaboration? The CEO leaned in, genuinely engaged now, and for a second, the swirling doubts receded, allowing a glimmer of clarity to emerge. As she formulated her response, Sarah felt the steady thrum of her heartbeat re-emerge, aligning with her growing resolve. She was not merely defending an idea, she was advocating for a vision that could redefine paths not just for herself, but for countless others. In this intricate dance of empowerment, Sarah discovered something unexpected. The lines drawn by her fears could be blurred into something unbreakable, a fusion of dreams and ambition. As she began to map out her collaborative vision in sharper detail, a sudden fear swept over her. What if this transformation became a mere mirage, all potential fleeting? And as those doubts simmered within, the CEO's voice called her back to focus, reeling her into the possibilities they had just begun to explore. Let us consider the stakes, the execution, and the impact, he urged, his tone urging her forward, a chance not yet grasped fully but tantalizingly close. But lurking behind the excitement was a chilling reality. Could she truly handle the pressure of not only achieving her dreams but also going beyond them for Liam? The question hovered heavy in the atmosphere, seeking an answer she didn't yet possess. With Liam watching, she prepared to confront the depths of her ambitions, bracing herself to unveil truths that might redefine everything she thought possible. Would she soar, or would she falter under the weight of expectation? The moment began to stretch, uncertainty melding with growing resolve, propelling Sarah into uncharted territories of her heart and vision. As she opened her mouth to respond once more, eyes sparkling with determination, she knew she was on the brink of a revelation that could reshape not only her future but the legacy she aimed to forge for Liam. What awaited them both on the horizon stirred equal parts excitement and dread. Could their aspirations truly take flight? As Sarah spoke, words began flowing with newfound purpose. Each sentence carved pathways through the dense foliage of her insecurities, redirecting her thoughts toward the tantalizing possibility of their project becoming reality. She focused on articulating a plan that not only showcased her ambitions but also recognized the essential role of community and collaboration. "We could initiate outreach programs," she proposed, her voice steadying. "By engaging local artists and educators, we can inspire children to explore their creativity. Workshops could feature storytelling through art where children and their families express themselves and learn to dream collectively." The CEO's eyebrows raised slightly, revealing an openness to the idea. "That sounds promising, but how will you measure success?" There was a challenge laced in the tone, nudging her to think beyond initial enthusiasm. Sarah paused, grappling with the question. Her mind churned, envisioning a mixture of metrics, but she realized that deeper than numbers lay the necessity for actual impact. "Success shouldn't just be quantified by attendance or participation," she replied, her voice gaining traction. "We need to cultivate a culture of creativity and emotional growth. Feedback, real dialogues with the participants will tell us whether we're truly making a difference." The CEO nodded, his gaze unwavering, urging her to delve deeper. Unraveling her thoughts from the confines of mere execution, Sarah found herself capturing the essence of what they aimed to build. She sensed Liam's presence beside her, a silent reminder of the stakes. "There should be opportunities for mentorship too," she continued, emboldened by the clarity taking shape in her mind. "Each workshop could pair children with adults who can foster skills, guide aspirations, and establish connections. This isn't just about creating an art space, it's about nurturing relationships that transcend generations." As she paused, evaluating the CEO's reaction, something shifted within her. The fear cascading through her veins was less about failure, and more about the weight of responsibility. Here she was, arguing not just for a concept but for a vision integrally tied to her life with Liam. The prospect of not fulfilling this ambition for him felt like a burden she'd rather not carry. "What makes you believe this will resonate?" the CEO pressed, his expression serious. "Because I believe in the power of connection," she responded, channeling passion into her words. "I've seen it in Liam, the way he lights up when sharing his dreams. It's contagious. And if we can harness that enthusiasm, we can foster a ripple effect. We can inspire not just children, but families to experience the joy of creating and collaborating." The room seemed to hold its breath as the CEO contemplated her words. In that pause, a sense of urgency surged through Sarah. Failure was not an option. The very thought of Liam's disappointment fueled her determination. The moment morphed into a challenge of its own. Could she articulate the urgency of their mission convincingly enough to remain in this pivotal conversation? Could she adequately defend their vision against the internal and external voices casting doubt? "Tell me this," the CEO said, breaking the silence, "if you face serious roadblocks, how will you handle them?" Her mental gears shifted abruptly. The question was raw and confrontational, and she felt scraped open, exposed to the vulnerability that lay just beneath. While she could sense the challenges ahead: funding, resources, community support, the real struggle would be within herself, managing the distress when setbacks emerged. "I'll adapt," Sarah heard herself say, surprising even her. "I'll pivot as needed, rethink approaches, and confront challenges with tenacity like I've taught myself to do for Liam." There was sincerity in her words, and as she spoke, a conviction solidified. She hadn't just been advocating for a dream, but demonstrating her resolve, her willingness to fight for what mattered. The CEO remained quiet for a moment longer, weighing her response. A glimmer of respect seemed to flicker in his expression, and for the first time, it felt palpable that they were engaged in something beyond a typical pitch. But that glimmer was quickly overshadowed by an unexpected thought racing through her mind. What if he wasn't convinced, despite her passion? What if he still viewed her and Liam's vision as merely idealistic? That question began a low simmer of doubt, casting a shadow over the progress she had fought to assert. The stakes had risen high, and the path forward remained shrouded in uncertainty. She could feel the apprehension creeping back, and it left a tangible knot in her chest, igniting questions about her true capabilities. Might this be the moment the tides shifted against her? Outside, the wind began to howl softly against the window, and Sarah looked at the CEO, fear mingling with stirring hope. She drummed her fingers on the table lightly, lost in a whirl of contemplation. Just then, an abrupt ring cut through the air, shattering the silence. The CEO's phone lit up, pulling his attention away from her. Sarah prepared for the worst. Would the moment slip through her fingers, merely extinguished by the interruptions of life? As he picked up, Sarah decided she couldn't afford to let fear take the lead. With her heart pounding, she resolved to transform that doubt into fuel, ready to confront whatever awaited them both. What if this conversation could turn the tide? What if she could leave a lasting impression that would carve a path forward, not just for their project, but for her and Liam's dreams? The wheels of fate were turning, but in which direction would they land? As the CEO excused himself to take the call, Sarah sat in the tense quiet of the conference room, her mind racing. She took a moment to breathe, to center herself amid the chaos of her thoughts. The flush of adrenaline from her earlier boldness ebbed away, replaced by a creeping doubt. The stakes weren't trivial, they encompassed everything she hoped to achieve for Liam, and that expectation felt heavier than it ever had. Adapting was one thing, but the question remained: how far would she need to go to prove her vision was viable? The initial thrill of her presentation began to fade, leaving room for uncertainty. She glanced at the framed artworks lining the walls, colorful scribbles and imaginative sketches captivating in their innocence. Each one reminded her of the pure spark of creativity she wanted to ignite in others, yet here she was, wrestling with self-imposed limitations. Casting her gaze to the window, the world outside continued unafflicted by her introspection. The sun illuminated floating dust motes, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within her. Sarah reflected on her journey, convoluted with struggle yet filled with significant moments of triumph. Each step forward had required her to shed layers of fear that weighed her down. Why was she feeling different now? The phone clicked off, and the CEO returned, his expression unreadable. Sarah straightened in her chair, channeling every ounce of resilience she had cultivated. It was now or never her time to build on momentum. But instead of launching into another pitch, she paused, taking a deeper breath. "Can I ask you a question?" She spoke, her voice steady. The directness caught the CEO off guard, beckoning his attention in a different manner than before. "Go ahead." His response was calculated, his brow furrowing slightly in intrigue. "Why did you start this company?" The inquiry echoed off the walls, startling her with its brashness. The question wasn't just a means to an end, it delved beneath the surface of a man who controlled more than just financial decisions. The CEO shifted, a flicker of personal history igniting behind his eyes. "I grew up in a neighborhood lacking opportunity. Art saved me, it was an escape and a bridge. I wanted to create something for others, give them access to avenues I didn't have." The answer benchmarked the moment for Sarah. She understood now that she was drawing on shared humanity, a common thread that existed between them. The struggles she faced paralleled those he had endured. Sensing the shift, she seized the opportunity. If we can foster an environment where creativity can flourish, people can cultivate the skills needed to discover their purpose just like you did, she pressed on, her voice now infused with confidence. Liam's drawings could represent hope, and if we connect with other children in similar circumstances, they might unlock their own potential. A glimmer of curiosity replaced his previous stoic demeanor. "You think art can change lives, don't you?" "Absolutely," she replied with fervor, feeling invigorated by her commitment to this vision. It was about more than the project. It was about lives, futures, and giving children the freedom to explore without the fear of disappointment. She felt empowered, yet she realized it was a precarious balance not only for her but also for Liam. Her commitment could mean facing rejection, financial hurdles, and other obstacles that might arise. Their journey was like working through a difficult piece of art, not just about the finished product but about navigating the artistic process itself. But at that moment, it was more than just words. It was a decision, a declaration of her intentions, a commitment to transform fear into action. "If we are going to do this, we'll have to be brave," she stated. The phrase hung in the air, charged, promising both risk and potential. "What do you mean?" he inquired, seeming to venture into her vulnerable space. "We'll have to challenge the status quo, invite critique, and be open to the possibility that not everyone will understand or support us. It's a huge risk to put ourselves out there," Sarah explained, her heart racing. "But it's in that very uncertainty where growth lies. It's where we build resilience." The CEO leaned back, contemplating her words, and something shifted in the atmosphere. It felt less like a pitch and more like a powerful connection and engagement where vulnerability infused the air with unspoken possibility. Yet as the silence deepened and ripples of conviction coursed through her, the weight of accountability loomed. Would she be able to maintain that courage when the reality of challenges unfolded before her? Was she truly ready for what lay ahead? Suspense wrapped tightly around them, and in that penultimate moment, Sarah felt the magnetic pull of ambition and fear, two forces eternally entwined, as she internally braced herself for the next phase of this journey. The time had come to walk that fine line, where dreams met reality. But just as the tension peaked, a knock on the door intruded, delivering an unexpected new twist. The moment was at the cusp of change, but would it lead to her breakthrough, or would it unravel the very fabric of her resolve? The knock echoed through the room, slicing the silence like a knife. Sarah's heart raced in response, a sudden surge of adrenaline blending with the anticipation and apprehension that had already set in. The door opened slightly, revealing a young intern, eyes wide with urgency and a nervous smile. "Sorry to interrupt," he stuttered, his voice almost drowned by the weight of uncertainty in the air. "But they need you back at your office. There's been an issue with one of the projects." The CEO shot a quick glance at Sarah, a flicker of concern passing between them. This was not the interruption she had hoped for, the moment she had been yearning to solidify her vision. "What kind of issue?" she asked, a sense of focus sharpening her thoughts. "It seems there's a conflict with the budget allocations for the upcoming quarter. Everyone's meeting in 20 minutes to discuss it." The intern's gaze shifted between the CEO and Sarah, sensing the palpable tension. "Thank you," the CEO replied curtly, dismissing the intern with a wave as he returned his focus to Sarah. "This could change everything," he said softly, a hint of both concern and support lacing his words. As the group dispersed, Sarah felt a swell of frustration mixed with urgency. The project she envisioned required her undivided attention, yet here she was, pulled back into the day-to-day operational struggle. The journey to initiate a culture shift she so desperately craved almost seemed distant, overshadowed by this immediate crisis. But as she took a deep breath and refocused, a new thought injected itself into her mind. Perhaps this new conflict, perhaps the chaos awaiting her, could provide them both with the opportunity to forge a stronger partnership. Instead of allowing it to derail her conviction, Sarah could use it to demonstrate her willingness to take on challenges head-on. "I have to go," she replied, an unexpected clarity blossoming within. "But I want us to reconvene right after the meeting. Let us dive deeper into this. We may discover solutions that can bridge our vision with the realities on the ground." The CEO nodded, an appreciative grin dawning on his face. "I admire your commitment. It's refreshing." As she walked out of the conference room, her determination sharpened. The gnawing doubt she had felt earlier transformed into a quiet resolve. Each challenge she faced was an invitation to grow, a layer she could peel back to reveal her true potential. The meeting unfolded swiftly, a whirlpool of opinions and tensions. Sarah was surprised by how readily she stepped forward, articulating her thoughts with newfound assurance. We can't afford to neglect the creativity aspect of our projects. We need to empower those at the grassroots, not stifle them with bureaucratic lines in the sand. Her words seemed to resonate, sparking murmurs of agreement from the table. By the time the meeting adjourned, she felt a beat of success echoing in her chest. She had caught glimpses of her own capacity to influence. But as other conversations unfolded, another part of her still danced with uncertainty. Were they truly willing to embrace the shifts necessary to facilitate real change? Back in her office, the weight of what awaited her felt both exhilarating and daunting. She could see a path where her vision might merge with operational realities, not as a compromise but as a powerful synergy. Just then, her phone buzzed. Another text from Liam's teacher, a reminder about that afternoon's art show. Her heart flipped, a perfect opportunity to connect the dots between her son's creativity and her professional aspirations. As Sarah prepared to leave, determination and excitement surged within her. The stakes were high, and the road was fraught with challenges, but she was ready to engage in a world that demanded her bravery. The intertwining of personal and professional growth beckoned. "Am I ready for this?" she whispered to herself, already sensing the tension and potential of what lay ahead. The question felt both like a self-affirmation and a challenge, one she was determined to face head-on. But as she reached for the door, a new message chimed in, a note from the CEO, asking to discuss the implications of her sudden advocacy in the meeting. What lay beyond that conversation? The next chapter was poised to unfold, shrouded in intrigue. Would it illuminate the path forward, or would it draw sharp lines in the sand, testing just how far Sarah was willing to go? The office felt stifling as Sarah read and reread the CEO's message. Each word weighed heavily, layered with expectation and a hint of curiosity that sparked her curiosity further. She felt an uneasy churn in her stomach, balancing her exhilaration with a stark reminder of her insecurities. How would he interpret her assertiveness? Had she crossed a line by voicing her concerns in such a bold manner? Self-doubt nudged at her thoughts, shadows creeping into the bright light of her recent confidence. She straightened her posture, pushing the doubts aside. This was a pivotal moment, and her leadership was already in motion. As she made her way down the corridor, Sarah's mind flickered through memories of doubt gnawing at her confidence in the past. Each moment she hesitated, a critical opportunity slipped through her fingers. Today was different. Today, she had a vision to uphold and a future she had started to sculpt, one meeting at a time. She knocked on the CEO's door before entering. The room was filled with the warm glow of the afternoon sun, and he gestured for her to sit. "Nice to see you, Sarah. I wanted to talk about your comments in the meeting today. It's refreshing to see such passion. But I could sense the tension in the room. How do you feel it may affect your project?" His directness cut through her initial trepidation. Honestly, it felt like a challenge she was willing to embrace, and maybe even transform. "Thank you," she replied, grounding herself. "I believe it's crucial for our organization to nurture innovation by embracing creativity on the ground level. Yes, there's resistance, but that resistance can become a catalyst for growth if we frame it correctly." He leaned back in his chair, interest evident in his eyes. "What do you propose? How do we shift that resistance into support?" The question ignited her. This was her chance to weave her vision into the fabric of the company. She spoke fluidly, ideas coursing through her mind. "I imagine starting workshops for all team members to articulate their ideas freely. It could help cross-pollinate concepts and reduce the bureaucratic stifling we've been facing. If we give our employees a voice, aligning their creativity with our goals, alliances can form out of necessity." He nodded as she spoke, a glimmer of intrigue reflecting back at her. "Interesting. But there's always the question of implementation. How do you envision laying the groundwork for such a shift? It won't be easy." She felt a rush of adrenaline, her heart hammering with every parsed sentence. "We need commitment from the top, supported by an inclusive atmosphere. I propose piloting these workshops on a small scale first. Collect feedback, iterate, and build a broader framework. If we can demonstrate tangible benefits, the leadership will have a strong case to persuade even skeptics. A silence enveloped the room as he considered her response. She could sense the tension mounting again, hope clashing with apprehension. Would he genuinely support her initiative, or was this meeting a final test of resolve? Let us explore this further. I want you to lead a presentation to the leadership team next week, he finally said, a mix of astonishment and respect creeping into his tone. But be prepared, the team isn't going to roll over easily. Thank you, she replied, a rush of relief flooding through. But beneath that joy was an undercurrent of anxiety. This was not just a presentation, it was a proving ground. As she stood to leave, she felt a slight tremor of excitement laced with intimidation. How far would she need to go to bridge the gap between her aspirations and reality? In the days ahead, balancing her professional responsibilities with her obligations as a mother would stretch her like never before. It would force her to confront the raw edges of her limitations and push back against the ingrained fears of self-doubt. Taking a deep breath, she stepped back into the bustle of the office, fortified by the unknown ahead. But another question lingered: would her resolve withstand the scrutiny of those she sought to influence? The stakes were high, and the consequences uncertain. The challenge of reconciliation between her personal aspirations and professional ambitions beckoned, drawing her further into the labyrinth of her ambitions. Just then, a message pinged on her phone, another reminder from Liam's art show. A glimmer of joy momentarily dispelled her mounting tension. But as she prepared for the next surge of her journey, she wondered. Would she be able to balance both her dreams and her reality, or would she falter at the multitude of challenges that awaited her? The days leading up to the presentation felt like a suffocating fog around Sarah, each passing moment tightening her chest with uncertainty. The relentless tick of the office clock echoed ominously, reminding her of the ticking time bomb of expectations she was about to defuse or ignite. She began her mornings earlier, sipping coffee as dawn broke through her window, the world outside waking up while her mind raced through strategies and potential questions from the leadership team. With each sip, she reminded herself of the importance of clarity, of articulating her vision with both passion and precision. Every interaction at work felt heavy with significance. Colleagues would casually chat, unaware of the storm brewing inside her. She practiced her pitch in her mind, visualizing the room filled with skeptical faces and the weight of their judgment bearing down on her. Was she prepared to defend her ideas against the seasoned scrutiny of her peers? It was daunting, yet she clung to the resolve that had sparked her original idea: change had to begin somewhere, and it could start with her. Then came the moment that caught her off guard, a surprise encounter with the very person she wished to impress. As she left a meeting, she bumped into Julia, the head of operations, whose reputation often preceded her like a shadow. This was not just a casual chat. Julia's influence loomed over the team, and Sarah felt an instinctive urge to seek a thread of connection. "Hey, Sarah. Heard you're facilitating a presentation next week. Exciting stuff," Julia stated, her tone deceptively friendly. "Just remember that being a visionary is great, but execution is key." "Thanks, Julia. I'm confident about the next steps and how we can actually implement them." The words barely escaped her lips before doubts threaded through her mind. Confidence? Did she truly believe what she was saying? She masked her vulnerability with a smile, but the undertone of her voice betrayed a hint of desperation. Julia raised an eyebrow, her expression sharpening. "Good. Just make sure to be ready for the hard questions. Not everyone will be as enthusiastic as you are. You know how it goes." With that, Julia strode away, leaving Sarah rattled. The doubt crept back in, each echo of her colleagues' words amplifying her anxiety. As the week progressed, Sarah's focus began to fracture. Juggling work responsibilities while ensuring Liam felt supported in his art endeavors took a toll. Each evening, Sarah would pore over her presentation, but her mind wandered to Liam's drawings, an expression of raw creativity that echoed her own ambitions, perhaps without the constraints of adult fears. The sight of his pencil strokes on paper reminded her to embrace vulnerability, to shed the weight of expectation that threatened to anchor her. On a particularly busy evening, as she bound herself to another late-night work session, Liam bounded into the room, clutching his latest work. "Mom, look!" he exclaimed, excitement illuminating his small face. It was a daring abstract painting, colors splashed without reservation. "I think it could be my best yet. What do you think?" Sarah kneeled beside him, her heart swelling with a mix of pride and nostalgia. "It's amazing, buddy. You really captured something special here," she replied, recognizing in his art the pure, unfiltered confidence she longed to embody. As they discussed his painting, Sarah began to realize the lesson woven into his creativity: the courage to express, to explore without the fear of judgment. Would she, too, be able to channel that energy into her presentation? That night, as she finally tucked him into bed, she whispered her promise: "Tomorrow, I'm going to be brave, just like you." But standing before the leadership team, seconds away from presenting, the weight of potential rejection loomed larger than ever. What if they dismissed her ideas outright? Would she falter under pressure, or could her passion break through the resistance? With adrenaline coursing through her veins, she took a deep breath. The stakes felt higher than they ever had before, and the room seemed to pulse with expectancy. Would she rise to meet the challenge, or would the fear that had once paralyzed her claw its way back? As she stepped forward, prepared to present her vision, every muscle in her body thrummed with anticipation. This was not just a presentation, it was a defining moment, one that could change everything. And then, just as she was about to speak, her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from Liam: "Good luck, Mom. Remember, it's all about having fun." Overwhelmed, Sarah paused. Her son's innocent belief in her ignited a spark. But deep down, a new question loomed: could her journey truly lead to the transformation she envisioned, or was she setting herself up for an inevitable crash? As Sarah stepped into the conference room, a sense of purpose surged through her veins. The realization crystallized: this was her moment to elevate not just her aspirations but also to ignite Liam's dreams. Gone were the echoes of doubt, all that remained was her vision crafted through hardship and hope. The room buzzed with the hum of anticipation, an audience of decision-makers who could alter the trajectory of her life. "Thank you all for gathering today," she began, steadiness infusing her voice. "I'm excited to share a concept that merges creativity with community impact, a vision I wholeheartedly believe can redefine how we interact with our younger generations." As she spoke about the potential to foster a culture that values self-expression, she drew parallels with Liam's unfiltered artwork, expressing how children could teach adults the essence of dreaming without limits. With every passionate word, Sarah dismantled barriers, her intentions shining through. The faces around the table transformed from skeptics to engaged listeners. Introducing specific initiatives, a blend of workshops, resources, and mentorship, Sarah painted a vivid picture of a pilot program that would catalyze change throughout the organization. She found her rhythm, her confidence cascading as she unraveled creative solutions to each anticipated critique. "Our current structure may be rigid, but this initiative will ignite the very innovation we need," she asserted. As she wove her narrative, a profound awareness settled within her: she wasn't just advocating for a project, she was advocating for a legacy intertwined with Liam's vision of creativity and freedom. The stakes felt higher than she had ever imagined, but so too did the promise of success. Embracing vulnerability, she shared anecdotes about her journey as a single mother, and how every challenge transformed into an opportunity for growth. The CEO leaned forward, intrigued. "Sarah, your drive is evident. However, how do we ensure this initiative gains traction and secures ongoing support?" His voice tethered her to the present, but his sincerity presented an opening she hadn't anticipated. "By employing a feedback loop," she suggested. We will ensure that input from participants guides our approach throughout. Engagement breeds investment. As we create value, our community will support us. This is about building bridges, not walls. Her words evoked nods of consensus around the table, each mind shifting toward the collective vision she had skillfully laid before them. When it came time for questions, rather than dread, she felt invigorated. Each inquiry challenged her to dig deeper into her convictions, and she emerged triumphant, handling objections with newfound fervor. Sarah had transformed fear into a catalyst for connection, revealing layers of potential where others saw only obstacles. By the end of her presentation, she could sense the atmosphere shifting palpably, anticipation sparkling in the eyes of those around her. Genuine engagement replaced skepticism as the CEO concluded the meeting with an unexpected offer. "Let us move forward, Sarah. I want you to lead the implementation of this project." The room erupted in applause. Her heart swelled. This recognition solidified her standing not only as a team member but as a leader, a true harbinger of change. The ground beneath her uncertain feet transformed into solid footing. She had accomplished what she set out to do. In the days that followed, as she flanked Liam through another of his art shows, she took pride in how far they had come. The whirlwind of the presentation felt like a garden planted, ready to flourish under nurturing light. And amidst the vibrant colors of Liam's creations, she saw the reflection of her growth both as a mother and a professional. "Mom, your presentation was amazing," Liam beamed, his innocent enthusiasm reigniting the spark of determination within her. "Thank you, buddy. You inspired me every step of the way," she replied, leaning down to juxtapose their visions. "This is just the beginning. We're going to change the future." With a new chapter unfolding before her, Sarah reveled in the pursuit of not just her ambitions, but in guiding her son's creativity. Each stroke on canvas, each initiative launched, reinforced the solid confidence she had forged. No longer was she defined by her limitations, she had proven her competence and found fulfillment beyond measure. Their home transformed, reverberating with a sense of purpose. The bills were now just numbers amidst a landscape of dreams. Dare she dream when once her world had felt confined? "Mom, what's next?" Liam asked one evening, hope sparkling in his eyes. "Next, we continue to fly," she replied, embracing the possibilities that lay ahead. Together, they would lead a legacy grounded in creativity and resilience. It was clear now this journey was not just Sarah's but the beginning of a shared legacy, thriving in every painting, every initiative, resonating with a profound truth they both now embodied. As the sun set outside their apartment, illuminating the world with dazzling colors, they glanced at each other, knowing that their real achievement was finding their voices amid the uncertainty of life. And as Sarah turned to cherish that moment, she realized, transformation is both an individual and a collective journey, and together they would soar. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Seriously, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear from real fans like you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Your support matters.